Did you know that most of what you've seen, read, or heard about Billy the Kid is untrue? My name is Gail Cooper. I'm a medical doctor and forensic psychiatrist. My specialty is murder case consultation for the defense. For 20 years, I've used my expertise to uncover the real Billy the Kid. Researching over 40,000 pages of archival documents and books, I've written the revisionist history. It's shocking, it's liberating, and I've written books demolishing the hoaxes, hijacking the history. My talks will share with you what I've found. Cover-ups, misinformation, and fakery, to use Old West lingo, will bite the dust. This talk is about two first known writings of Billy Bonney, known as Billy the Kid. The information comes from my book, Billy the Kid's Writings, Words, and Wit. Billy's personalized Spencerian handwriting was the subject of a previous talk, and the background of New Mexico Territory's freedom fights against the deadly Santa Fe Ring, into which Billy's writings fit, is in my talk titled The Real History of Billy the Kid. The writings add to the understanding of the real Billy Bonney. Billy's known words, written by him or transcribed by others, sought justice, first for his boss, John Tunstall, murdered by the Santa Fe Ring, then against other ring criminals during the Lincoln County War, then for his own pardon as a freedom-fighting regulator in that war. Though Billy was teenaged and penniless, his writings show that he believed his words could prevail against politicians and military brass. Billy's known writings are a Regulator Manifesto letter, a Bill of Sale to a Henry Hoyt for a horse, 2 pardon negotiation letters to New Mexico Territory Governor Lew Wallace, 1 pardon negotiation letter to Justice of the Peace John Wilson, 1 additional pardon bargain letter newly identified by me, 1 pre-capture letter to Governor Wallace, 4 pardon plea letters to Wallace from the Santa Fe jail, and 1 letter to his attorney, Edgar Capeless, about appealing his hanging sentence. As I discuss in other talks, Billy's words were also recorded by others. There is his deposition to presidential investigator Frank Warner Angel about the ring murder of John Tunstall. There are his quotes remembered by his championing contemporaries as old-timers. There is his interview on territorial outlawry as recorded by Lew Wallace during their pardon bargain meetings. There is record of his testimony for the prosecution in a Lincoln County grand jury against ringite murderers of attorney Houston Chapman. There is his testimony in the military court of inquiry for possible court-martial of past Fort Stanton commander N.A.M. Dudley for intervention in the Lincoln County War battle. And there are his brash and witty interviews with reporters, both after his capture and after his hanging sentence. But there are lost words also. Lost is Billy's transcript of his grand jury testimony for his Lew Wallace pardon bargain. Lost is his letter for a second pardon option sent to Secret Service Special Operative Azariah Wild for exchanging his testimony against counterfeiters. And there may be others awaiting discovery. The first of the writings, which I attribute to Billy Bonney, is controversial as to his authorship. It is a letter claimed to be by his fellow regulator, Charlie Bowdry, but only its copy exists, so its handwriting is unknown, and it is signed just Regulator. Dated July 13th, 1878, the day before the start of the great battle of the Lincoln County War, it was written just 10 days after the Rings terrorist massacre of McSween's Side Hispanic residents of San Patricio, and Billy was especially close to them. I named it the Regulator Manifesto. It magnificently declares the Regulator's stand against Santa Fe ring boss Thomas Benton Catron, and it foreshadows Billy's post-war retaliatory stock rustling against ringites. The letter was addressed to ring boss Catron's brother-in-law, Edgar Walsh. Walsh managed Catron's huge Lincoln County cattle ranch. Edgar Walsh apparently found the manifesto either sufficiently alarming or incriminating to give it to Fort Stanton's ring loyalist post adjutant, 2nd Lieutenant 9th Cavalry, Millard Fillmore Goodwin. Goodwin, in turn, took legal precautions to make its so-called true copy. He had it certified by ringite past Justice of the Peace David Easton, by the copyist, a Thomas Blair, Captain 15th Infantry, and by himself. But that established only that it was an accurate copy. It had nothing to do with who authored it. This copy is in the Washington, D.C. National Archive records of the Adjutant General's office. Its attribution to Charles Bowdry came in the 20th century. It was by early Billy the Kid historian Maurice Garland Fulton. Fulton claimed that Edgar Walsh identified the handwriting, but there's no evidence that Walsh knew Bowdry's handwriting. It seems more likely that Walsh simply gave a regulator name which he knew. If, however, it was actually Bowdry's writing, I would venture that Billy dictated it to him. The wording matches Billy's known literary skill and melodrama. For example, on March 20th, 1879, he wrote to Governor Lew Wallace, "I am not afraid to die like a man fighting, but I would not like to be killed like a dog unarmed." And on April 16th, 1881, after his hanging sentence, he told a Messiah News reporter, "If mob law is going to rule, better dismiss judge and sheriff, and that all take chances alike." He added, "I think it hard that I should be the only one to suffer the extreme penalty of the law." And it is noteworthy that Thomas Benton Catron's stock in Edgar Walsh's care would, by late 1878 and through 1880, become one target of Billy's retaliative rustling as threatened in that Regulator Manifesto. The manifesto, like a soldier's report, was headed, "In Camp," then dated July 13th, 1878. It stated, "Mr. Walsh, sir, we are all aware that your brother-in-law, T.B. Catron, sustains the Murphy-Kinney party, and take this method of informing you that if any property belonging to the residents of this county is stolen or destroyed, Mr. Catron's property will be dealt with, as nearly as can be, in the way in which the party he sustains deals with the property stolen or destroyed by them." We returned Mr. Thornton the horses we took for the purpose of keeping the Murphy crowd from pursuing us, with the promise that these horses should not again be used for that purpose. Now we know that the Tunstall estate cattle are pledged to Kinney and party. Note that John Kinney was the ring rustler who did the San Patricio massacre with his gang. If they are taken, a similar number will be taken from your brother, meaning brother-in-law. It is our object and efforts to protect property. But the man who plans destruction shall have destruction measured on him. Steal from the poorest or richest American or Mexican, and the full measure of the injury you do shall be visited upon the property of Mr. Catron. This murderous band is harbored by you as your guest, and with the consent of Catron occupies your property. Signed, Regulator. For the 3 years of life left to him, Billy would live true to this manifesto and true to its bicultural commitment. I repeat, it is our object and efforts to protect property, but the man who plans destruction shall have destruction measured on him. Steal from the poorest or richest American or Mexican, and the full measure of the injury you do shall be visited upon the property of Mr. Catron. Billy would refer again to his Robin Hood role in his December 12, 1880 letter to Governor Lew Wallace. He wrote, "Several instances I have recovered stolen property when there was no chance to get an officer to do it. One instance for Hugo Zuber, Post Office Puerto de Luna, another for Pablo Anaya, same place." The second earliest writing of Billy Bonney is a bill of sale for a horse, and his authorship is undisputed. After the Lincoln County War's defeat, teenage Billy became a petty rustler and gadfly harassing ringmen. One location Billy used for stock disposal was Tascosa, Texas. There, on October 24, 1878, he wrote and had legally witnessed a bill of sale for an expensive horse to a Henry Hoyt, a medical doctor, then working as a mail rider. This document is legally sophisticated. It reflects Billy's experience of legal maneuvering. By its writing, Billy had been exposed to John Tunstall's and Alexander McSween's malicious prosecution by the Santa Fe Ring for a fake embezzling case about the Emil Fritz life insurance policy proceeds. Billy had been legally deputized to arrest Tunstall's ring murderers. He had been briefly jailed illegally by ring-eyed Lincoln County Sheriff William Brady. He had seen Tunstall's murderers shielded by the ring. He would have rejoiced at McSween's grand jury victory in the embezzlement case, and he would have been privy to McSween's legal complaint about Tunstall's murder to the British ambassador and the president. And Billy had himself given an eyewitness affidavit on Tunstall's murder, as well as a formal deposition to presidential investigator Frank Warner Angel about that murder. The Hoyt Bill of Sale was written about 3 months after Billy's Regulator Manifesto and the lost Lincoln County War battle. It epitomized Billy's retaliative anti-ring rustling in action. Writing with past Regulator friends Charlie Bowdry and Tom O'Folliard, and initially with Regulators Hosea Doc Skurlock and John Middleton, who soon left the territory, Billy was adhering to the Regulator Manifesto and rustling from Catron's ranch. Another rustling target was the rancher of ring-biased Charles Fritz, brother of deceased Emil Fritz. The Bill of Sale yields a riddle. Why did Hoyt keep it? The horse was merely a gift from a scruffy teenager. If the horse was originally stolen, that was common, and Hoyt often got horses for his mail rider job. The answer came in Hoyt's April 27, 1929 letter to Lew Wallace's grandson about the document. Hoyt stated about Billy, then 18, he was a remarkable character. So Billy stood out. charismatic, brilliant, audacious, and bicultural. The Bill of Sale was a great souvenir for the young doctor. By 1929, Hoyt's intuition paid off based on owning that Bill of Sale and knowing Billy. He wrote his book titled A Frontier Doctor. The Hoyt Bill of Sale, as reflecting the Regulator Manifesto's threat of retribution, seems to be Billy's taunt, and it reveals much about him from handwriting, content, and signature. The horse in question is called a sorrel, which is a flashy chestnut. Hoyt states in his book that its name was Dandy Dick. That name says it all. Dandy Dick had belonged to hated and killed, Tunstall-murdering, ring-eyed sheriff William Brady. After Brady's Regulator killing, the horse would have been at ringman ranches of T.B. Catron or Charles Fritz. One can say that stolen Dandy Dick was, for Billy, spoils of war. A bill of sale, Billy knew, was needed to protect Hoyt, but it teasingly gave away the horse's audacious theft while mocking its foul master by providing its precise brands. In this document, Billy began the cocky irony that would persist in his writings as Rage's substitute. Dramatically, Billy used correct legalese. Besides giving date, location, and buyer, he worded a contract. One can only guess how he learned, but exhibits provided by Alexander McSween to Frank Warner Angel for his own deposition on John Tunstall's murder have the wording Billy used. It was, "Know all persons by these presents." Possibly Billy, privately reading over his own deposition at the Lincoln Courthouse prior to signing it, found and read McSween's. Also legal is Billy's getting signed witnessing by a George J. Howard and a James E. McMasters. They were the owners of the store and saloon where the document was apparently written. As to his penmanship, it is Billy's personalized Spencerian style. It is also his only attempt at Spencerian shading, though his pen caught and spread ink at the BB brand. In addition, after his Angel deposition's more awkward signature on June 8, 1878, Billy must have practiced. The Bill of Sale has a clever and beautiful innovation. He is now W, standing alone, with united H. Bonney. The H and B are joined with very clever, intertwined artistry. Here is the Hoyt Bill of Sale. On screen is the Hoyt Bill of Sale. Billy headed it precisely as Tascosa, Texas, Thursday, October 24th, 1878. He wrote, "Know all persons by these presents that I do hereby sell and deliver to Henry F. Hoyt, one sorrel horse, branded BB, on left hip, and other indistinct branded on shoulders for the sum of $75 in hand received. W. H. Bonney." This is a correct and meticulous contract. Billy confirmed both selling and delivering the horse, and he must have asked Hoyt for his middle initial. The sum is legally written as a $sign and the word dollars. The brands are noted, and Billy's adding the so-called other indistinct brand is teasing, since rustlers blurred past brands, then added their own. So Billy may be saying that local ring boss James Dolan, who is thought to have given the horse to Brady, may have stolen it. Also playful is the astronomical price of $75 for this horse given as a gift to likable Hoyt. And after the traumas of the Lincoln County War, Billy's resilience comes through. Still a boy, he shows that he is powerful enough to give accomplished Hoyt a great horse. That this outlaw lifestyle was not what Billy wanted is evidenced by his next letters, only 4.5 months away, to Governor Lew Wallace, in which he proposed to risk all to re-enter society free of his Lincoln County war murder indictments. That would free him from the Santa Fe ring's hold on him by hanging trials, if he could be caught. Those next letters were about the pardon bargain he offered to Governor Lew Wallace. Like his Regulator Manifesto and Hoyt Bill of Sale, they were still in the realm of legal negotiation. I will discuss them in later talks, and they will also contribute to analysis of the pardon bargain itself in talks about my book, The Lost Pardon of Billy the Kid.